Episode 8, Cannabis Delivery Methods, Part 1, Inhalation and Tinctures.
Plants for Lyfe Podcast is straight conversation about plant-based whole foods, also known as ITAL lifestyles for health and wellness with a special focus on cannabis. Felecia Dawson MD, cannabis advocate, educator, dual board certified physician, obstetrics, gynecology, and integrative medicine. Oskii Chevanier, fourth generation Jamaican herbalist, plant-based nutritionist, indoor cannabis cultivator, and veteran cannabis pioneer. And Marilyn Pierce RN, author, speaker, and cannabis advocate. Join us as we discuss nutritional plant-based lifestyles, including cannabis. Go first, Doc.
Sure. Greetings, everyone. Let me just give just a quick overview of the major entryways of cannabis or CBD into the body. I would say number one, inhalation through the lungs. Number two, skin or topical. Three would be oral. And four, not in any particular order, would be suppositories or through the rectum or vagina. So 4 major entryways into the body with cannabis or CBD. So let Oskii start.
Okay. That being said, I guess we're going to go through the list starting with inhalation first. First of all, as for delivery, inhalation is not its first medicinal use. Inhalation is only medicinal for acute symptoms of psychiatric, maybe anxiety, depression, insomnia, as well as spasmodic activity for individuals with like Tourette's and those type of brain spasm activity, seizure activity, and as well as maybe gastrointestinal and those type of things. But they are not, inhalation is not a delivery for treating illness or for treating terminal disease. It is an acute symptom relief and for treatment of specific mental spasmodic conditions. So inhalation is not for treating illness, especially terminal illness. It can be used for symptom relief. And a lot of the studies, the problem is a lot of the studies that are done in retrospect, the retrospective studies are done with folks have been using inhaled cannabis, which is why they're pretty much have no more value.
And how I think in terms of inhalation or things that need quick addressing, like you said, spasms, anxiety, possibly. Somebody's getting ready to do some public speaking. But spasms, anxiety, those are the things, or sometimes pain for some people.
Right.
Something that needs quick onset. And in general, when you bring this medicine into the lungs, the onset of action is 2 to 3 minutes. But it only lasts 2 to 4 hours. And that's another reason why it's not necessarily the first line of action for trying to take it in medicinally. You want something that's going to last a little longer than 2 to 3 hours. The other thing about and I'll just briefly break down the main forms of inhalation. One would be smoking, a pipe or a joint or a blunt. Another one would be vaping, and that would be broken down even further into vape pens and electronic vaporizers made specifically for dry herb. Various forms of steamed chalice, which I would let Oskii talk about too, and dabbing, which I will let Oskii talk about too, probably. But those are the main things that you bring the medicine in through your lungs. I will say if we're gonna start with smoking, because that's been around for a while, it's very common. Anytime you burn or combust any plant material, it generates at least 1,500 different types of toxins. A formaldehyde, and various carcinogens or cancer-causing ailments. And that's one of the reasons why we discourage, if you're going to bring the medicine in through your lungs, to not smoke it or combust it. Another reason for not smoking it is when you light a flame, that's like 600 degrees Fahrenheit. Most of all of the cannabinoids, THC, CBD, they all combust at 400 degrees or less. And they've done studies And even terpenes start to evaporate as low as 70 degrees Fahrenheit. They've done studies of people smoking cannabis versus using the electronic vaporizer. The people who are using the electronic vaporizer will have a 50% higher level of cannabinoids. So that's another reason why it's better, more efficacious in terms of you getting most of your medicine, safer for you in terms of not generating toxins, and that those are the two main things that help electronic vaporizers get over smoking. Now, smoking every once in a while is not going to hurt you. I know it's been done a lot for ritual and fellowship and things like that. And I think because this plant is so amazing with its anti-cancer properties, that it has helped to balance out some of the negatives of combusting it. But people who do smoke on a regular tend to have more problems with mucus production, chronic bronchitis, periodontal disease. There is no evidence of lung cancer. Again, that is probably due to all of the medicinal properties of the plant in general.
I read something a time ago that actually said that the cannabinoids negate the harmful properties of the smoke, or many of them. And that's probably definitely for specific individuals as well, because as we know, all taking of anything is an individual basis. If someone has COPD, they're not going to get the benefits of they're going to get more of the bad parts of the smoke than someone who has a clean, effective lung system and smokes once in a while. But that being said, the best way to inhale cannabis would be vaporized. That'd be the best and cleanest way, definitely. There are also properties of smoke killing bacteria and viral activity in the air, as we know with sage and thyme and those things. And we know that in the Bible days, that's how cannabis was burned, or when it was consumed as a smoke, it was burned in that fashion in a tent-like enclosure with the other herbs burning on top of it, and that smoke would actually purge toxins out of the air and their bodies. So I do believe that there is an element of benefit versus the toxins of it, and it probably has to do with how much times you're doing it. Like if someone's smoking every single day, the toxins may outweigh the benefits. But if someone's purging their system with it in a smoking way once a month or in a ritual fashion like these ancient peoples would have been doing it, that's a whole different story, along with a healthy lifestyle. That being said, the original way of vaporizing is the steam chalice from Jamaica. It's an apparatus where there is water inside. It's pretty much a portable hookah. The same way that a hookah functions is in the way that a steam chalice functions. The plant material is put inside of a pipe-like apparatus, right, that has a tube on the inside of it. That tube goes down inside of, say, a coconut, right, that has some water inside of it. Then there's a hose on the top of that apparatus so you can pull what's inside the pipe through the water. Now, on top of that, you don't light that bowl directly. That bowl gets covered, right, like with a piece of clay, and then the coal is put on top of that. So it doesn't get lit. The heat from the coal steams the herb under it, and the herb goes through the water. So you bring in a filtered steam, and that is the known cleanest way that the Rastas have been smoking for who knows how long in Jamaica. That's the cleanest way of bringing in the herb to their system. And also, smoking is also one last thing we didn't mention. Smoking is also the least amount of absorption value. It's a 15% absorption value as compared to 35% absorption value with digested, and 85% absorption value with suppositories going to the rectal. So it's very, very small absorption value. And unless you're in Jamaica in the hills smoking a steam chalice with 2 ounces inside of it, you might not get what you need.
Oskii, I love that you can always bring the Jamaican and the ancestry part into everything we're talking about. Just a reminder to everyone who's listening, much more information and also pictures and videos will be available on our masterclass. So we want to wrap up inhalation with one more quick explanation of Oskii. I don't even really know exactly what it is, but what's dabbing?
Oh, dabbing. Let's not forget about dabbing. Dabbing is when you take a concentrated extract of cannabis, which is they'll extract the cannabis with a solvent, either a BHO or a CO2, or distill it, or distill a cannabinoid from the plant material, and it will come out as a very viscous or oil material, terpene rich. It'll pretty much have the top few cannabinoids in it that can survive the amount of heat that they use for extraction, which is THC, CBD, maybe CBN, and a couple others down there. But most of the cannabinoids and phytonutrients and whatnot will be heated off, and you'll have pretty much the terpenes, the flavonoids, and the most powerful cannabinoids that can stand up against that heat. And that extraction is then placed in small amounts, because now, you know, you can get about from an ounce of very decent flower, you can extract down to get maybe a gram of some high quality extract or distillate or something like that. So you can go anywhere from like a gram to 3 grams, depending upon how much cannabinoid value is in the original starting material. And terpenes and flavonoids, and very, very, very rich in these things. It's pretty much an essential oil made from cannabis. That's what these things are. These are essential oils using new extraction processes, new high-end extraction processes that are using scientific chemistry to strip off the most flavorful and sought-after cannabinoids from the plant to therefore be used for inhalation.
And I was reading that when you take a dose from this dabbing technique, that you should be sitting down because it may be just that strong, because they say that one hit off of a dab is equivalent to consuming one joint.
Right. It could be even more, depending if someone, how big the dab, you know, they got people out there who drop a whole bunch of a dab in that. A dab rig is going to have a nail made of a glass or a metal, some type of material that can be heated to a very high heat. Sometimes they use low temperature as well, but a heat that pretty much, have you ever seen a hot pan and then you drop oil in it and how it hits the pan and it vaporizes instantly? That's what's happening when you dab this oil. You're pretty much taking an essential oil, you heat up the apparatus that it's on, and you drop that essential oil inside of there and inhale that vapor the second it vaporizes off of it. The reason why people have to sit down a lot, because as you know, THC is right there in lieu with those faint senses. People can faint on cannabis. I haven't seen it happen before. You know what I mean? People can get stoned, whatever, and them faint reflexes will kick in, and people can pass out.
It dilates your blood vessels and makes your blood pressure drop, and that's what causes you to.
There we go. Thank you, Doc. Thank you.
That. Two of the most common ways that people bring the medicine or plant medicine into their lungs is either a vape pen or electronic vaporizer made specifically for dry herb. The vape pen is very popular, especially with young people, because it's discreet, looks like a ink pen. However, it has some pros and cons. The pro would be that it's convenient, discreet. Some of the negatives would be that the cartridge that contains the cannabis oil may be cut with something like polyethylene glycol or propylene glycol or vegetable glycerin. And in 2019, we saw people cutting it with contraband like vitamin E oil and pesticides. And I believe formaldehyde was even found in one cartridge pen. It started this whole EVALI or e-cigarette and vape lung injury, where people got a chemical pneumonitis, because some things may be okay to consume orally, like vitamin E, even though this was synthetic vitamin E oil, may not give you any problems taking it through your gut, but trying to bring it into your lungs is a whole nother story. Actually, the same thing goes true for those thinning agents that are commonly used to make the oils thinner, like the PEG or PG or glycerin. There are no long-term safety studies on inhaling that and what effect it can have on you. I did a quick little review of some PubMed articles. There's like over 1,800 articles there on inhaling propylene glycol. And one I remember seeing said that there's a certain amount, like maybe 400, I don't know if it's micrograms or milligrams, that is the top level that you should consume without it irritating your airway. And one puff off of a vape pen is exceeded. So that was interesting. I know that animal studies don't always relate to human studies, but there was an interesting animal study that showed that it messed up the circadian rhythm of mice by exposing them to the inhalations of a vape pen. So it's, it's something that we need to be aware of and know that industry corporations will do all kind of things to give themselves an edge on their competition that may not have been tested first. And they'll make all kind of claims that their product does this and that, but the safety studies have not been done. I think the FDA, the World Health Organization, has been pleading with the e-cigarette industry since 2008 to do testing. And then we get this big blow up with the vaping lung injury. So definitely vape pens, smoking, electronic vaporizers, they're all quick in onset. All of them can get you the result in a few minutes, but the effect just lasts 2 or 3 hours. The other downside is that we don't have any really long-term studies on the safety of the cutting agents. We don't have any long-term studies on the safety of using even the electronic vaporizer. We kind of assume it's a safe thing, but in light of the toxins and the contaminants and the lack of regulation, we definitely would recommend that you get an electronic vaporizer that's for dry herb to consume your cannabis if you want to bring it in through your lungs.
That was a great overview of inhalation. Can we go ahead and move on to the next most common ways of taking cannabis into our bodies, and that would be oral consumption?
Yes. Now, typically or historically, tinctures were alcohol-based, extracting the medicinal properties of the plant out of its structure using alcohol. The two safest ways to extract are food-grade ethanol or carbon dioxide. Those are the two safest, cleanest ways to extract cannabinoids from the plant. Tinctures, I like tinctures because you hold them under your tongue and they can get into your system faster, like sometimes within 15 minutes. The alcohol tinctures, 15 to 60 minutes, and they last, a good 6 to 8 hours if you hold them under your tongue enough. Also, they avoid that first pass through the liver. And what that means is that anything you take in through your mouth goes through your liver first before it's delivered to the rest of your tissues. And cannabis oils, over about 80% of those things get taken out by the liver. So you only really receive 20% of the product. So that's why an alcoholic tincture will give you, I think, more bang for your buck. And it's easy to titrate and find your right dosage in treating a medical condition. Oils, I see some companies say hold on to your tongue, but it really takes a good hour to 2 hours to get that onset of action with oils. And again, anything you swallow, 80% of it's going to be taken out by your liver. And then if you're taking really, really big doses, maybe more than 1,500 milligrams of, per se, CBD, there's also that issue of drug to herb interactions. Oskii, I'll let you jump in there.
Sublingually is the fastest acting, and digesting is, I believe that digesting it may not be fastest acting, but that's the highest absorption rate of the oral deliveries. Whereas tinctures has the ability to, as you say, it has the qualities of being fast acting and doesn't get messed with by the liver as much. But the digestion has the ability to get more cannabinoids where they need to go. A sublingual delivery is going to be faster acting and more powerful in the onset, but it doesn't last as long. Because of that factor is why I believe the system doesn't absorb as much of it, because it's just when it's digested, it's just sitting in there for so long, just dancing through the system for all those hours. When it's digested, it definitely has a longer time. It takes about 2 hours to kick in, as opposed to 20 minutes like sublingual. So the sublingual is better for, acute situations as well. And people who have asthma or seizure activity is definitely better for that. It also has benefits as being a fast acting emergency delivery, whereas digestive has to be a treatment dose. There's
one advantage of if you're doing cannabis going through the liver is that it converts the THC to 11-hydroxy THC, which is even more potent. So that's
what it is.
It can be a mixed blessing or a way to increase the potency because of that conversion.
Right. That's what it is. That's what I'm trying to think of here. It definitely has a longer lasting time. I know that much.
Okay. And do we want to move to edibles now?
Yes, please.
Please listen to episode 9, Cannabis Delivery Methods, Part 2.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast. Also, look for us on YouTube and at plantsforlife.com.
Plants for Life. Plant-based lifestyles and ancient nutritional treatment strategies. Plants for Life.
The ideas presented in this podcast are meant for general informational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. The Plants for Life podcast and Plants for Life LLC and all affiliate subsidiaries disclaim any liability for any damages arising out of reliance on the information presented. Please consult licensed professionals for any medical, legal, or business advice.